See, that's why you should be up here, Heidi. This is my sidekick right here. So, also, I wanted to make sure to remind everybody that 28th, we're going to get it. Did I must have said the 23rd. Okay. I wanted to, the church has requested us to smoke out there on the other side of the parking lot. So anybody, no smoking, no vaping. They're very strict on this policy, and that was one of the policies they told us they really wanted to enforce when we started this here. So if you guys could honor that, we would all greatly appreciate it, and hopefully not get kicked out of here. So thank you very much.
Hey guys, it looks like it's 7 o'clock, so if everybody wants to come in and fill these seats up, we will get Barbie to come start the meeting.
We have a bunch of extra stuff. So if you want to grab any of those bags on your way out of chips, shells, there's lettuce, there's just some random stuff over there. It's all bagged up. Beans, if anybody wants to take that stuff, it's up for grabs. You can take it on your way out. And in May, we're going to be meeting. We won't be meeting in April, but we will be meeting in May, and we're going to be doing a barbecue. So we're going to smoke some meat. You guys bring the sides, and we'll have another meeting in May. Look, the only thing we're smoking is meat.
These days. All right.
Call on Joe M.
Joe M. Yep. Okay. Thank you.
Ready? Hello, everybody. I'm Ray Boardwell, and I am an addict and alcoholic. Welcome to the Wichita area citywide. At this time, we ask that you please silence your cell phones and let us open the meeting with a moment of silence for the still suffering alcoholic inside and outside of these rooms, followed by the serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Amen.
And now can Joe M. come up to read the preamble?
Hi, I'm Joe. I'm an alcoholic and an addict. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for membership for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution. Does not wish to engage in controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any cause. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and to help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. Now, will Shalene read the anonymity statement?
Hi, I'm Shalene, and I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic addict. Anonymity statement. There may be some here who are not familiar with our tradition of personal anonymity at the public level. Our public relations policy is based on attraction rather than promotion. We need always maintain personal anonymity at the level of press, radio, and films. We respectfully ask that AA speakers and AA members not be photographed, videoed, or identified by full name on all media platforms or in any published reports of our meetings, including those reports on public media platforms. The assurance of anonymity is essential in our efforts to help other problem drinkers who may wish to share our recovery program with us. And our tradition of anonymity reminds us that AA principles come before personalities. And now Jerry J. will read A Vision for You.
My name is Jerry J, and I'm an alcoholic addict. A vision for you. Our book is meant to be suggestive only. We realize that we know only a little. God will constantly disclose more to you and to us. Ask in your morning meditation what you can do for the man who is still sick. The answers will come if your own house is in order, but obviously you cannot transmit something you haven't got. See to it that your relationship with him is right, and great events will come to pass for you and countless others. This is the great fact for us. Abandon yourself to God as you understand God. Admit your faults to him and to your fellows. Clear away the wreckage of your past. Give freely of what you find and join us. We shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit, and you will surely meet some of us as you trudge the road of happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you until then. And now Ralph M. will give you the treasure report.
I'm Ralph, and I am an alcoholic. I'm also the treasurer for Citywide, which means the only thing I do is I write down the donations given, and I write the checks for the church and the food and all that good kind of stuff. So I'm just going to give you the number. We are, after paying for this meeting, we're down to $200. So we have a lineup of speakers all year long except for next month. So we do need to raise those funds a little bit. So if you have it, please give it. But the most important thing is that you're here. Okay, so if you don't have it, we still want you here. But if you do, please share it with us so we can keep this thing going and have more and more speakers. And then if you don't have it tonight and you know one of the board members, or if anybody has my phone number, you can give it to me and I will get it in the bank so we have more funds to work with, okay? We're going to pass the baskets. They are on this end. If you could, if nobody's there, if you could grab them from the end and get them passed to the other end, and then we'll collect those. And looking forward to a good speaker tonight. So the next up is Bobby Rose.
Wow. Good turnout. They said I'm going to quit getting nervous one of these times, but Joe, where's he at? Where'd he go? Yeah, I'm still nervous. Yeah. I don't know. Thank you all for showing up tonight and supporting Citywide. Our guy tonight, Raymond, I met him last year in Akron, Ohio. And we hang out with some pretty good people, and they come from everywhere. And it just blows my mind, his story, just the parts that I've heard. And hanging out with him today has been just totally awesome. I have hosted probably 3 or 4 speakers, and Raymond is by far the best one so far. We laughed, and we had a great time. I got the opportunity to take him around Wichita a little bit. He did get a Twister City Harley-Davidson shirt, so, took him by a tree job, and yeah, good stuff. But I just wanted to, this guy's, I'm going to give it over to him. This Raymond from New York. How do you say that town again? Lindenhurst, New York, not whatever that was.
Thank you, Bobby. Wow. My name's Raymond. I am a recovered alcoholic. Recovered from a hopeless state of mind and body these days. My sober date is May 31st, 1983. When I came in, yes. I was 25 years old, and I heard the pop one morning. April 18th, I heard the pop. You know what the pop is? My head coming out of my butt. You know? Oh, great. Thank you. I am not a circuit speaker. This is my first time speaking to an audience this size, being flown out to a meeting, So I'm just going to speak the truth, what comes from me. I come from a blue-collar neighborhood in Brentwood, New York, where I grew up. Brentwood, Long Island, from the island. I'm not from New York City. It's the last place I want to go is the city, unless well, I used to go see Frank Zappa. I just saw Buckethead there. You know, I'll go into the city for a concert. That's about it in there. But I came from a middle-class neighborhood, blue collar. My dad was a heavy equipment operator. I'm a retired heavy equipment operator, union job. I knew what I was going to do my whole life, right? Brought up from a little kid, father-son union, you're going to do it. So I never had to excel myself in anything, you know, like schoolwork, educational work, you know, stuff like that. And being grown up with anxiety, you know, anxiety and ADD, you didn't know what that was, you know. You didn't know what it was when you were growing up. You just felt that way, and you tell your parents you feel that way, and your father would say, well, don't feel that way. You know, it was things like that, the mix messages. My dad gave us presents, but not his presence. Where he grew up, what he grew up with was parents where he slept in the hallway. You know, he did go to school uphill both ways, you know. He did have cardboard in his shoes, you know. I heard about a lot about my dad after he passed away. So when we moved out to Long Island, you know, I was born in Roosevelt. We moved out to Brentwood. It was an upcoming neighborhood. You know, the war was over, all of that. It was a development. We were the first people in that house. And the whole block was blue-collar workers. We had plumbers, carpenters, steam fitters, you know, the whole 9 yards. And it seemed like everybody was Catholic because every family had 5 kids, you know. All of Brentwood. I mean, my graduating class, I think, was 12 or 1,500. You know, my high school was so big that we won every sport on Long Island that they split our high school up into 2 different schools. So the graduating classes and the baseball teams, you know, basketball teams are all small. I have hearing aids, and my voicemail or whatever goes to there. And yeah, Puerto Rico calling, you know. It's in there. But it's all good. You know, I grew up in a great neighborhood. You know, we were the first kids on the block to have a swimming pool, the first kids to have color TV, the first to have cable vision. We were experimental neighborhood when they came out with cable, you know, so we had the stations. We had, you know, we had things in our lives, you know, having all this stuff, having Christmas presents under the Christmas tree, you know, but still feeling like the outside looking in, the square peg in the round hole, you know, the fear. Growing up, I didn't know it was fear, but growing up with a lot of fear, a lot of nervousness, a lot of scared, you know, going to school and that sense when you see people talking, they're talking about you. And, you know, I learned all this in AA, but growing up with it, it was just a fear. You know, growing up with all this fear, the fear of when your father walked in the door when he came home from work, what was your mother going to say to him? Was the table going to get flipped over? You know, was the look in his eyes, you know? We always liked it when he went to union meetings because he always came home drunk, you know? I can't say my dad was an alcoholic, but he grew up in an alcoholic family with anger. My dad grew up with a lot of anger, and he took his anger out on, well, I was the first boy born. I had an older sister, you know? So a lot of anger was taken out on me. You know, I was his punching bag sometimes, you know, because I did things wrong. It was the only thing you knew, you know, stuff like that, you know. But what I'm telling you now didn't make me an alcoholic, you know, didn't make me drink more. It didn't make me, but I knew growing up that once I started drinking, once I had that Strawberry Hill, they have that here, yeah, Boone's Farm, right, apple wine, you know, that the hippies, you know, the hippies I grew up in the late 60s, early 70s, where the hippies were in the park and, you know, Battle of the Bands and, you know, all this, the head shops, you would go in and they had them rings that opened up, you know, wondering what all this was, you know, what is this? And the psychedelic something, you know, the store was. And, I mean, Brentwood was a great place to grow up. Lots of kids, lots of hangouts, lots of street corner, not gangs. We hung out, and there used to be a lot of woods in my neighborhood, you know. So it was just a lot of fun growing up, you know, doing things with other people, traveling, and baseball and softball in the parks, and there was always something to do, you know. But once I started getting away from that, once I smoked my first joint, listening to Black Sabbath Master of Reality. Pink Floyd, Ummagumma. Careful with that axe, Eugene. Yeah, that brought you places, right? Grand Funk. Or how about the James Gang, Rides Again? You know, that whole, you want an album to listen to? James Gang Rides Again with Joe Walsh. Every song on that album is good. It's high, it's low, I still listen to it today. And, but once I started drinking, it brought me to that place that I didn't want to come back from. I felt okay then. I fit in, I had a place and it was like, wow, the elixir. For some of us my age and a little older, you remember the Westerns, the black and whites? Yeah, and the wagon pulled up with the elixir on it, and it cured everything. It fixed this, it fixed that, it does. But if you ever looked at there was more alcohol in it than anything, So to an alcoholic, it did fix everything, So I enjoyed my weekends, the weekends. What are we going to do this weekend? Let's go up and get, let's get a bottle of this. And then we upped it from Strawberry Hill, we upped it to Tango. Tango. I could never drink that again if they sold it non-alcoholic. I remember throwing up on that and saying, oh my God, even Tang. I can't even drink Tang. I think that was a product of that too, growing up in there. But, one thing just led to another. So I started lacking on my schoolwork. My main thing, and I don't remember much of junior high. I remember when the 4 were killed in Ohio. Remember that? And it was junior high, and everybody walked out of junior high. They walked out, they were going to hitchhike to the mall, and I made it out of school, but then the fear hit me of what my father would do to me if I got caught. So I went back in. So I didn't walk out of that. That was just the start. That was halfway out, right? And then when I went into 10th grade and 11th grade into the high school, that's when I started cutting class. That's when my grades were never up there. I'm an average guy, even my size, my clothes, I'm a C student, and so I did okay in school. I dropped math, I dropped science, everything you could drop, I dropped it. So I took more workshop, more wood shop, more metal shop, hanging out with the kids. I was supposed to go to BOCES. BOCES like an out-of-school class for trades and stuff. I was going to go for heavy equipment operator. But I didn't want to do that. I wanted to hang out because you didn't get back from the BOCES class till like 1:30, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And in the morning session, which I went to, I would get out at 11 o'clock, And I remember my first period teacher, he was a health teacher. He had one eye, Mr. Ramsey. So if you sat on his right eye side, when he turned his head and took attendance, because that was the main thing to get on the attendance sheet, you're in, then you could sneak out the door. That was homeroom. It wasn't even a class, it was homeroom. So see, we're smart people, alcoholics. We're very smart. And we learn that. We learn how to connive, how to get over, how to get this, how to get that. But it was just shown into negative places over the years, the negative part, the smart but negative. I had the master key to the school for the bathrooms that were locked. I don't know how I got it, So when we went into that bathroom, and you could open it up and smoke in that bathroom and not get caught, but that took the fun out of it. It was fun to go into the bathroom and smoke the cigarette. That one that the red is so long and you smoking, and then the dean would come in, you to the office, And finally I got caught, and my father couldn't come up to the school because he worked. My mother came up to school, got me put back in again. It was just all this negative stuff. See, negative attention was better than no attention, because I didn't get a lot of attention from my dad. He worked, he came home, and on the weekends I took the tools out of his car, put them back in for an allowance. I was the guy that took care of the pool, the one he put up, or who had to take care of it. I cut the grass, did all of those things around the house. So I'm very mechanically inclined, and I didn't know the things that I could do were of value to anybody, because I always wanted to be like you. I wanted to be like other people and what they had, and what they never was happy what I had, or my home, what I had. My mom is 88 years old. She still dresses like she does from the 50s, with the red lipstick and the hair with the curls on the top and the front, like she's, wears them sneakers. You know, she was just in the hospital, and she wouldn't let us come see her. She was in the nursing home, the physical therapy part of it, you know, and she wouldn't, because she couldn't put her makeup on. You know, she wouldn't let us come and see her, and she couldn't curl her hair. You know, she's home now. You know, Medicaid, the 100 days ran out, so she's back home, but she still doesn't want us to come see her. You know, we love her to death. She lives way out east from me on the island. My mom was a good enabler, you know. My mom enabled us a lot, kept us out, but she held it over our head, you know, them parts, you know. I'm not going to tell your father. You know, it was a lot of craziness going on in my house growing up with that, you know. But we were the kids on the block that had the pool, had the toys, had this stuff, and not knowing it, because I always wanted to be the mother that took us to the beach. I live on an island, Fire Island, Jones Beach, you know, where you know, why wouldn't you want to go? It's not a lake, it's a waves. You go swimming, belly riding, all this stuff, you know. It was a lot of fun. So, and they took us to the baseball games. They took us, you know. My father never had time to do that. Yet his father never did it for him. So he really didn't know, but he used to take me to work with him. I loved going to work with him. I loved that atmosphere of that. You know, but all this started, I was riding mini bikes at 12, 13 years old too. You know, there used to be a lot of woods on Long Island, so we rode mini bikes, and we weren't supposed to, and go to ride in places, and we did it. You know, all these but once I started drinking, and I did every drug there was, all right? I'm not a drug addict. I was never addicted to any. Alcohol was my master. I knew where a bottle of Jack was going to get me when I started drinking alcoholic. It was guaranteed. I knew where alcohol was going to bring me. The other stuff, most of the stuff was all fake. Anybody ever do a Quaalude? A lemon, Aurora, you know, and they break apart. They were fake. They, you know, so it's like, I don't even want to do that, you know? Yeah, in there. But I didn't like cocaine. I didn't like speed. I liked alcohol. It brought me where I like to be, that comfort zone. But when I remember I drank alcoholically at 17 years old, you know, 17, 18 years old, and when we rented our first house, you know, it was an old house. You had to go through the kitchen, up 3 steps, make a left, go up these steep steps to the bedrooms up there. There were just 2. It was an old house, you know, weren't even full rooms. And I come down the stairs after going to Chaucer's Ale House with the southern bands playing, and we came down. I see this big hole in the wall. I said, wow, how did that get there? You know, on my way to work, I took my hood and I flipped it up, and all the wood went down my back. You know, I said, you know, and I went home and I leaned back and, that was me. You know, my odd-shaped head went through that wall. Good thing it wasn't a beam, you know, in there. But that, you see, this was the start of my drinking, of where it was taking me, little by little, the good times you have when you drank and you really couldn't get in trouble. Now I was starting to get in trouble. Now I was drinking and driving, you know, going through it. Then I went from the local hippie bars, then I went to the biker bars. In 1979, I bought my first motorcycle, a 71 Chopper Sportster, 12 over Springer, you know, thinking I was the shit, you know, in there, yeah, with a 12 over, no front brake. It was a real chopper, you know, it was in there. And you know, by the next year, I already had it ripped apart, you know, taking it apart and customizing it and drinking and going to the local bars. And, you know, it was all that image part, all of that. It really wasn't so much about riding. It was about having the bike, going to the bar, drinking, getting drunk, you know, in the wintertime, bringing the bike in the bar to warm up the oil so you can start it, because you still had the 60 weight in it from the summertime that you didn't change, you know. And it was, you know, many times I came home with that bike, that the shifter was on the right side. This was an oddball bike. So when it fell over, the shifter would pop out of the ratchet box, and I'd have to come home in first gear, flames coming out of the rear pipe, because that usually fell off. Wah! Flames coming out, stuck in first gear, going home. I got so good at taking that tranny apart and putting it back together again, you know? But that was how I was drinking. Instead of not drinking, I just found different ways of doing it, finding different. We enabled our own self to keep not really thinking. It was the alcohol. How could you put that together? All my friends drink like I do, right? Yeah. I got my first DWI in 1981, before Right on Red was legal, and I left the pewter tankard bar. It was a biker bar kind of a place, and they didn't like the bikers in there, so they wouldn't let you in with your leather jacket, so you didn't have saddlebags on your bike or anything back then, so you really couldn't let you in there. And we had one person stay outside and watch. It was a finagle. It was and I was driving my truck that night, and I left on my truck. I made a right on red, almost back. Where I got pulled over? In front of an X-rated movie theater. And my truck stayed there all night, So the next day when I had to get back, I hear, Ray, was that your truck? Were you? No, it was, you wake over with that hangover, and, the first DWI you get away with. You always get away with your first one. You get released on your own recognizance, go to a class. I had to make one AA meeting. I did that, made the one AA meeting, had the restricted license. I could still drive to work or whatever, but we never listened to that. We still kept driving, Right before Thanksgiving of 1982, I got my second DWI. This was the interesting one. I had a 78 Ford pickup truck I bought brand new. I ordered it from the factory, right? $5,700 out the door, delivered. Nice silver F-150 Ranger, I had the cap on the back of it, matching color, the wheels on it, and it was only a two-wheel drive. I didn't want a four-wheel, but I went out and needed tires. So I'm getting new tires the next morning. So I'll only go out for one. Went out for one. One led to two. Two to three. Then I went to the other bar. The first one was a topless bar. You don't stay in them long because everything's pretty expensive in there, So I went there, then the other one, and I ate a couple Valium somebody gave me, and then I tried driving home on that. And it rained out, it was a light rain out, and of course, these ball tires, when I turned that cloverleaf onto a highway, them ball tires drove me right into a pole. The ass end of the truck came around and bang, right into the pole. That sudden stop, And freaking ball tires. If only I had, new tires on it, this wouldn't happen. I ended up in jail, This was my third arrest. Fourth arrest. I got arrested once when I was going for a gun permit years later. I married a cop, and I wrote down all my arrests, And they said, Ray, this one came up. You got busted upstate I was hitchhiking, and a cop was in the woods, and I had pot in my knapsack. Boy, you got pot in that knapsack? Oh, no, sir. I what was left of a dime bag in there, back when we used to roll up the baggies, in there. Yeah, it was there. And I got away with a fine, and I had to come home, and got considered an arrest, So that one came up. And once I had a criminal trespass. I loved walking into the wrong house. I had a habit of walking and the house that we hung out in, I went into the backyard, into the house in the backyard, so I got arrested for criminal trespass. So I skipped bail on that, and we went out to Colorado, hung out in there, Then I came back. We hitchhiked all the way to Florida, on there. We woke up one morning after doing some LSD. I-10 and 25, whatever it was, whatever ride, California or Florida. So we went to Florida. 8 days, 7 nights on the road, no shower. I had hair down to my butt, a leather jacket. With my little friend, we called him Rooney, And, so we hitchhiked there, and we finally got there. It was great to take a shower. And the girls we were going to visit, we found out they were topless dancers. Who had it better than us, It was episodes like, oh, grandiose, All came back to New York, and that's the year I ordered my truck. And, crazy good times. But that second DWI, that was right before Thanksgiving. The whole front end. This isn't the first time I changed the front end of that truck. So we ordered a front end. This is still back then where you could open up the hood and look down and see your feet, not like today's, with all that garbage in there. So I pulled it, yeah. I already changed the engine in his truck. One time I rode over a fence and the pole was sticking up, and I hit the pole, which hit the oil pan, so that pulled the engine out, put a new oil pan on. Didn't stop drinking. No, none of these things I stopped drinking. But that second DWI made me think about it. That was right before Thanksgiving, so it took me 10 days, me and my roommate, to fix it, put a new front end on it. Then we went out just for one. I'll only drink beer. And that was 82. So in 83, my drinking progressed, the progression started, and I started hitting the local bars again. This bar, that bar, that bar, and coming home, and I'm driving drunk. And then finally, I was hanging in with these outlaws that were robbing drugstores, going through the roof, stealing the drugs, you know, all of that stuff. And I almost did it as a lookout. And I said, what are you doing? This is when it started hitting me you know, April of 1983. I went to court, the beginning of court, and I got away with that second DWI with a $500 fine. I had good union lawyers. I'm a heavy equipment operator. The lawyers came in. The guys ahead of me did time. They did probation, and I had a choice between probation or a $500 fine. I just didn't. When does an alcoholic do their taxes? Right? I just got mine done right before April 15th, and you know how much I was getting back? $506. So Ray paid that $500 fine. I got away with it. You know, that last week was hell. It really was. And April 18th, I had to wake up that morning and go see somebody about getting my license back, you know. And I woke up and said, what are you doing? That's the morning I heard the pop, you know. What the heck are you doing with your life? 25 years old, you have a career, a promising career ahead of you for the rest of your life, you know. And just look at yourself. Look where you're living. Look what you're doing. And I drove. I wasn't supposed to drive there, but I drove there, and this woman said to me, Raymond, this is a 10-week program. You have to make one AA meeting. Why don't you do it tonight? Pow. Pow. I had the bug. I had the, not the denial, I can't wait till tonight. You know, when an alcoholic wants something, that obsession, I want it now. And one of the guys I was hanging out with, he'd been to AA already. Him and I used to go riding together. You know, we used to siphon gas out of people's cars, steal the headlights because the headlights kept breaking, all that, you know, crazy. It was fun. This was harmless fun. But he came to me. We went to our first AA meeting, to a young people's meeting because we were young. You know, when you walk into that meeting, you know what it's like being a newcomer. Any newcomers here? You know, you walk into a meeting and then you meet these people. Hi, how you doing? I'm here. Yeah, get a sponsor. 90-90, one day at a time. Live and let live. Blah, blah. Hey, yeah, I just want to quit drinking. You know, you don't know anything about AA. You know, you get a sponsor. Do this. You know, where you going tomorrow? You know, so we got a meeting list, and we said, okay, 90 and 90. What do you mean by 90? Well, 90 meetings in 90 days. You get a base part. You get comfortable. You go there. You find out what it's about. You know, take the cotton out of your ears, stick it in your mouth. You know, just listen because you don't know 4 words a newcomer should not say. I know and yeah, but. Because if you knew, you wouldn't be here. And yeah, but. And yeah, you know, what are you willing to do to stay sober one day at a time for the rest of your life? Anything. All right, no relationships. Well, anything but that. You know, but anything but that. You just said you're willing to do anything, you know. So you hear all this stuff, and we used to have this guy come over my house, you know. I worked with him at a recycling plant in 78 and 79, and he was a welder. But he used to come to our house. Jack was an outlaw from Philadelphia. He was in the Warlocks. And he used to come to our house and sell us Shakely vitamins. We didn't know what they were, you know, Shakely. So we started, and he became my sponsor. I didn't know it, but, you know, this was it. He used to come to our house, and we'd say, Jack, you want some of this? You want some of that? Would you like some? We had a little bar set up, and he would always say, you don't have enough. You don't have enough. What do you mean we don't have enough? And we didn't realize that. But on my 3rd meeting, I went down the basement to that first AA meeting I went to the year before, the first DWI. I went down there, and who was there? Jack. You know what he said to me? I knew I'd see you here sooner or later. Yeah. He became my sponsor because I knew him. Jack was a great guy, really was. Worst sponsor you ever want to get. Because the only thing he told me was, yeah, just don't drink, go to meetings. You know, back in the 80s, they didn't push the steps of the big book. Just don't drink, go to meetings. Don't drink, go to meetings. And that's what I did. I drank, and I'm a young person. We met other young people, because there were a lot of you old people there, you know. The people's in you like 40, 50 years old, you know. You old people in there, you know. And, you know, giving you all these, telling you what to do, you know, that kind of stuff. So then we started, there was one AA meeting in Suffolk County, so we went there to meet the women, you know. I helped start a sober motorcycle club called the 5th Chapter. right? I became the vice president of this motorcycle club. I mean, back then I had long hair, red beard, and so the fifth chapter became my God, my AA, getting that together, meeting other people, putting that, traveling, going here, going to meetings. Now I had an ego. I was vice president, and I had a girl, a young lady. They told me not to get involved. She was brand new. She was good looking. And they said, you shouldn't do that, Ray. She's new. Yeah, but she likes me. She likes me. If I don't take it, no, but somebody else will, and it won't work out, well, yeah, I mean, her legs were so long. They made a perfect butt out of themselves, It was just like, and of course it didn't work out. Of course she broke my heart. And of course, but we had a lot of fun with this fifth chapter. And, going into my second year, working with my sponsor, who was a welder, iron worker, he tells me I was up on a roof setting the beams were already laid out. So we're setting the rooftop, the corrugated steel. And he said, Ray, you stepped over a bundle of steel and the other side wasn't welded down yet. That slid open, I fell through, I landed on my head. Subdural hematoma. They brought me to the hospital and told my parents, if he lives, he'll probably never walk or talk again. And I didn't know any of this. I remember eating cheesecake the night before in the diner. So when I woke up 5 days later, they took me out of the coma to see if I still had feeling in my legs. And here I am strapped to a bed, wake up. It's like, what's going on here? I see my toes wiggle. My mother went, I had feeling in my legs, You could tell I did recover from that. I did walk out of the hospital. You know what I was pissed off at when I walked out? They cut half my hair off. That was my image. That was my ego. That was, all of that. But I didn't understand what happened, it's like a really bad concussion. I still got the 2 holes in my head that relieved the pressure of the subdural, of the brain pressure. My brain was so big, no. You kind of, yeah. But I did get out of that. It was horrible for the recovery. I had to go to head injury and all of that, and, that act of God. See, grew up, I had a God in my life. I had a punishing God, the one that was going to hell for everything I did. Because that's the way my mother was some other religion. My father was Catholic, and he couldn't, it was crazy. But I did believe. I'm agnostic without knowledge of God. Right? I'm agnostic. I didn't know what that was. But all this time going up, and blaming God for all the bad things, never looking at where he put me for these other things, like keep me alive, My hair grew back. I ended up cutting the other side off. I wore a beret for 6 months, covering up that bald side, in there, getting back to, So I got to tell you this. These are the things you don't do when you get sober, I stayed dry. I didn't have sobriety. I had what they call sobriety. Take the drink away from a drunken horse thief, what do you have? A sober horse thief, So for 22 years before I opened up that big book, well, actually in 93 I opened it up. I actually met a woman, a Suffolk County cop, a Puerto Rican, thick-headed Puerto Rican woman that liked me, came to my door. I met her at the gym. She'd come to my house, and okay. And I remember she was a runner. And I started getting on the bicycle. I started gaining some weight. And I remember getting on the stationary bike down in my basement. I owned a house at this time because I got a couple settlements for 2 different accidents, right? So what does an alcoholic do with a lot of money? Right? He buys himself presents, because what was he taught at a young age? What makes you happy? Buying yourself presents. I put a nice down payment on a house, bought a new motorcycle in '86, toured up and down the East Coast, started working in my industry in '87, a heavy equipment operator, getting settled in, money started coming in, met this woman who made a lot of money, and the excuse used to be, the only reason we're getting married, she has medical benefits, By the time we got married, I was already with a steady job. Anybody hear of a company called Asplund? The world's biggest tree company? Well, I was the heavy equipment operator for them because my father's oiler became the master, like the shop steward of that company, and he got me in. So all these good things were happening, but outside things, getting married, right? Getting a job, training, running, riding motorcycles, you know? And I started doing triathlons, you know, the swim, bike, run life. My life became swim, bike, run, eat, sleep, go to meetings, don't drink, go to meetings, sat in the back. What do we call the back row? Denial aisle, inventory row, you know? Look how good I'm doing. Look at these losers in here, you know, taking inventory, ego, you know, all of that. Because that was me. I know these things. These are the negative things, what not to do when you first come in. Trying to fix the brain I got with the brain that got me here. How does that doesn't work too good, right? You know, not really knowing what an alcoholic was. Not really knowing until I opened up this paperweight. See, this was how big this book was when I first got it. For the last 19 years, it grew. They keep putting things in here. They keep putting things in there all the time. That's what they mean by that. You know, when you read the doctor's opinion or the first forward in that big book, you know, see, when the pain gets great enough, you know, alcoholics like tea bags. We only do the work when you put us in hot water. I got married in 1994 on March 12th. You know when I got divorced? 2006, March 12th. It was 19 years ago the other day, you know. We're still friends today, you know. Found out 2 years later that she's bipolar, you know, and 2 sickies don't make a welly, 2 dinglings don't ring a bell, 2 dead batteries do not start a car, you know. I have a couple timeshares in Puerto Rico, and her aunt died, so her family came down. She actually stayed in the same room with me, you know, for 9 days. But now I knew them right. I knew them 4 words that you married people might know. Yes, dear, you're right. Yes, dear, you're right. And she's got a thing of saying, you know, do you want to do this today? Do you want? Yes, dear, yes. Okay. But, you know, we just learned to work the compromise in there. So we're still friends today. When I go home Monday, I got to go to Costco and buy new CO and fire alarms because the ones in her house are beeping, going off. That means the one in my house are going off because I put them in the same time. You know, we became friends after 2 years. You know, 2 years of divorce and finding ourselves, and me finally opening up this book, getting a new sponsor, you know, opening it up and realizing what this book has to teach us. So all them things I didn't do, all these outside things trying to help me stay sober, but still going home, putting all these things, this God hole, in this God hole, stuffing these things, $5,000 bicycles, races, buying basically anything we wanted. We're not rich. We both grew up in the same blue-collar neighborhood. You know, we weren't rich, but we had whatever we wanted we could buy. We went to the Olympics in '96, you know, stayed there for 10 days. We went on vacations all the time, 3-4 times a year, you know, and still wasn't happy. Still was restless, irritable, and discontented on the inside. Just 'cause you drink, you know, money don't make you happy. It sure makes life easy. You know, and easy still doesn't make you happy. So when I opened up this book and read, you know, the first forward, you know, it talks about how 100 men has recovered from a hopeless state of mind and body. 18 times the recovered is in this book. You know how many times recovering is in this book? Once, in Family Afterward. You know, between recovered and recover, 34 times. We can recover. I had the flu one time. Am I still recovering from the flu? I have recovered from it, right? I can recover. Doesn't mean I'm cured. I don't have the obsession to drink, and that's what I realize an alcoholic is. Alcoholics have an obsessional mind. We obsess. See, a hard drinker, a moderate drinker tells me has no problem stopping at all. A hard drinker has the obsession of the mind. They can quit when their girlfriend, wife, anybody, your job says, hey, you got to quit your drinking. Okay. It's the real alcoholic, right? I'm a real alcoholic that I cannot stop, that once I start drinking, that allergy kicks in. We process alcohol than regular people, that normal people drink without impunity, right? That why? I don't know about here, but at home, at the end of the night, the bartender would say this couple of words. You don't have to go home, but why do alcoholics know that? Only we know that. Normal people don't do that, you know? So that's when I found out what the disease was, when I got more into learning what an alcoholic was and what the doctor called a psychic change, you know? And he also called it the phenomenon of craving. You know, that's something we have that regular people don't have, you know? Said, oh, okay, it comes to light, you know? And what is powerless? You know? Less power than what's required to make an informed decision not to drink. How many people are powerless over their cell phone? How many people cannot sit at a meeting for an hour and not go on their cell phone? You know, that's when you realize I'm still powerless over this thing. The addiction over this. I wake up in the middle of the night and hit it sometimes, you know? And it's like, what are you doing? You know? But I'm powerless over people, places, and things. So once I find, in the steps, you'll see, I was powerless over alcohol and my life was unmanageable. Anybody never noticed a small p in powerless? That's talking about human power in that first. The first step tells me I'm going to drink again. It tells me I'm powerless over alcohol and my life is unmanageable. I couldn't manage my own drinking, that I am going to drink again, realizing that I am powerless. Step 2 tells me that I have to find a power, capital P, meaning God. I have to find a power greater than myself, whether it means God to you or not, and just be willing to believe. That's all the second step asks me, is to be willing to believe that there is a power out there. And I had this idea, you know, in that we agnostic, it tells us, for deep down inside every man, woman, and child is a fundamental idea of God. May it be obscured by calamity, pomp, ego, and chaos, and worship of other things. I worship my motorcycle. I worship women. I worship my job. I worship all these other things than this higher power, because I like to blame that higher power. But at least I was willing to believe there was something out there, you know? And then the third step, you know, the third step, what did that mean? Oh, I have to, no, the third step is only making a decision to turn your will in your life, your thoughts and your actions over to the care of something you have no idea of, because I'm agnostic. There is a God, but I'm not it. They told me in the beginning to hang that Post-it on my bathroom mirror. Raymond, I don't need your help today, God. Right? I can't fix the brain I got with the brain that got me here. I cannot fly the plane from Coach. And I keep trying, right? You don't know what a hassle it was to get here, waking up in the morning and your flight was canceled. Oh, damn it. You know, I went to meet Bobby at 5 o'clock, and we were going to go out to eat and all these plans. All right, what flights can I ride? Can I fly? And it worked out perfect because he had something to do last night. I got here 11 o'clock, made it here. Everything worked out the way it was supposed to. You know, but after doing that third step, what does it say at the end of the third step? No amen. Why isn't there an amen? We'll find that out at the seventh step. All it asks me is to make a decision, turn my will in my life, to be willing to, you know, to do that. Relieve me the bondage of self, not drugs and alcohol. Selfishness and self-centeredness, we think, is the root of our trouble. 100 forms of fear, self-delusion, self-seeking, self-pity. Anybody come in with that big V? I like Chris Raymond talks about the big V tattooed on your chest. What a victim. I'm a victim, all you people. Because this one, because that one, you know, oh, blaming everybody. It was so easy to do a fourth step. Oh, the fear of doing this fourth step for so many years. I'm not a good writer. I still can't spell. I have horrible chicken writing, you know, all that stuff. But to do it, you know, it says next, at once, right away, to get into this fourth step, to look at the things that were holding me back, to find my character defects that were blocking me from this higher power. You know, underneath that was the great reality within, it talks about on page 55. I know, I turned into a big book thumper, you know. It just amazes me, you know, what's in this book, you know. And when I find out what those character defects are, oh, I got a few minutes left. Want to hear my character defects? Self-pity. Relieve me of myself, right? Self-justification. Self-importance, my ego. Self-condemnation, my guilt. My dishonesty. My impatience. My hate. Hate was a horrible thing. Resentment is the #1 offender. False pride. jealousy, envy, laziness, procrastination. Anybody have procrastination in here? Yeah. I'm retired. Why should I do it today when I could do it tomorrow, you know? Insincerity, negative thinking. Boy, I used to get so high and talk myself out of good ideas, what I could do. Immoral, anybody have immoral thinking in here? Lust, you know? Criticizing, lying, fear, that 100 forms of fear, and greed. These are the things that were blocking me, what I found out doing in my 4th step. You know, the people I'd harmed and I had to make amends to, you know? Why do I have to do that? Why do I have to do I just did a 5th step with you. You know, there's a lot more to it, you know, when you sit with somebody and talk over your sex harms and your fears and all of that. But these are the things that were blocking me, my character defects. Now, in my 3rd step, I ask God, relieve me the bondage of self so I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, but I don't know what my difficulties are yet. Now I know what they are. I know my character defects. So in the 6th step, it asks me, was I willing to have God remove these? Yes, I was. Yes, at that time, you know, so that was my difficulties. Yes, 7th step, asking God to remove them. I'm working on my 7th step. How do you work on your 7th step? I asked God, my ego, I asked him to take them away. You know, so it was, the rest of the steps are they just come. You know, the 8th step, make the list of people you'd harm, making that list and making those amends. We were amazed before we were halfway through. Halfway through what? Halfway through making those amends. I don't know if everybody made those amends yet, but you know how good you feel cleaning up the past? Getting rid of that stuff that was blocking you from this higher power, you know? And I carry my 9th step into my 10th step. It says that in there. My 10th step tells me it's got all the steps except 1, 2, and 3. It's got 4 through 9 in there. When these crop up, selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear, when they crop up, not if they crop up, when. They happen every day. I'll give you a hint. Instead of somebody on the road, character defect, number 1 is traffic. Traffic. Instead of giving somebody the bird, give them the flying asshole. And they wave back at you. You friggin' idiot, you know. You know, you can make it, you know, I'm not perfect, you know. Practice these principles, right? So it tells me in the 10th step I've been restored to sanity. You know, all these things that I go over. 10th step is about me. 11th step, sought through prayer and meditation to improve my conscious contact with God. So I'm still a little agnostic, still learning more. You know, I do a lot of meditation. You know how I do a lot of meditation? On my motorcycle. I usually ride 30,000 miles a year on my motorcycle. I live on an island. I go around. I rode the Ocean Parkway, which is right along the beaches. The parkways, Robert Moses, this guy designed these parkways. I don't ride less than 100 miles. Anybody ever hear a band called Buckethead? Oh, God, he's good. And I'm going to see him when I get home in April. You know, 7th row in a small theater. You know, I saw him last year in New York City. And, you know, but this, in our 11th step, it tells us, upon awakening, here's where I do my 3rd step prayer in the morning. God, direct my thinking. Divorce me from self-pity, dishonest, and self-seeking motives. Right there is because I already made the decision to turn my will over to him. I already believe in God. So that, and then my 12th step is what I'm doing here today. Haven't had a spiritual awakening. What's a spiritual awakening? It's an awakening from the spirit, right? That spirit was always in there, but I had to clean out the past, these defects, make my amends to make this awakening, this spirit to come alive. You know, spiritual experience, spiritual awakening, both the same things, you know. And I get to carry this message to other alcoholics, not my message. My message of don't do what I did, but do these things, AA's message, right? And practice these principles in all my affairs. What do you do if you can't practice these principles in all your affairs? I know, I said the same thing. Change your affairs. Can you be a used car salesman, actually sell an old person an old car and give them the taillight guarantee and go to home and sleep good at night? You know, we have this conscious today, this belly barometer. I covered it up with alcohol and other things. Now I have this belly barometer to know to do the right next thing. I know when I put all those PVC fittings together at Home Depot, and I could scan them and get one piece, you know? No, but you know, the alcoholic mind still thinks like that, you know? Take them apart. Now I got 3 of these, 4 of these. You know, it's living the right thing, sleeping right, being nice to people. You know, I used to be very introverted. Now I'll talk to a wooden Indian. He asks me, oh, and I have a bag of frogs. If anybody wants a frog, forever rely on God. Faithfully rely. First rely, forever rely. When I quit drinking, I start thinking. When I get in my head thinking, I see my frog and I say, God, give me the strength. Don't fix it for me. Give me the strength to get through this. Because I have it. It's in here. We learn from our experiences what to do, what not to do. And the most of all, when all else fails, help another alcoholic. When I'm in my head going through that divorce, you know, the anxiety, the fear, you name it, everything came out. And to help somebody else, you get out of yourself, you know. And boy, was Bob right. I mean, Bill. He put that in there in the big book over and over again. You know, when all else fails, help another alcoholic. And that's what we do when we come here with smiles on. We greet people. We say hello. It works. It works if you work it. Oh, the other thing, anybody read the 7-step prayer? And at the end of it, what does it say? Amen. We're in prayer from that 3rd step till the 7th step, when that amen. And in page 62, when it says we are his agents, he is our director, because I'm not directing that show anymore, that he is our director, you know. And at the end, it says we go out there and do his bidding. That's what makes us his agents. We act for him to go out here and spread this message of how we stay sober for coming up on 42 years. Half of it sober, half of it sobriety and sobriety. Don't do what I did and just don't drink and go to meetings. Get a sponsor. You will be rocketed into the 4th dimension, catapulted into the 4th dimension. What do they mean by that? You'll know. You'll know. Hold on to your seat because it keeps getting better. You know, it keeps getting better in here. I babysit dogs. When I go home, what's better? I have my own dog. I go running with her. I bought these tennis ball gun. It shoots 10. I bought 100 tennis balls on eBay, you know, and I shoot these and I babysit 2 other dogs, and my yard is all chewed up, my backyard. I have 100 by 112, and bang, bang, bang from shooting these balls. And what the hell? They're having a good time. You know how I you know how I learned acceptance? I had 3 dogs of my own at one time. And I came home from work back when I used to have a job. I come home and I have to clean up all the poop every day or every other day, and it's all this poop. And I said to my sponsor, Mike, because he gave me one of the dogs, a Chesapeake. He tried to break me my lab habit, you know. I said, Mike, what do I do about this? He goes, I know a way. I said, yeah, how? He said, get rid of the dogs. I said, I don't want to do that. Well, I accept cleaning up the poop now. It's not a big deal. You know, it's not a big, so we learn what we want. If we want money, we need a job, you know. I want white teeth, I got to brush them. I learned a little too late, but, you know, there's things, I want to stay sober, I got to do the work. Don't just, if we could just not do it, that'd be the Nancy Reagan way, just say no. If I could just say no, so I get to live and I come out to visit you and share my story. You know, and all last night I'm waking up. The only thing I know I'm going to say when I get up here was that my name's Raymond, I'm an alcoholic. I'll forget everything I wanted to say, so just come from the heart. Come from there and share my story, my experience, strength, and hope, to be happy, joyous, and free, and I'm trying to do that with my life today. Thank you all very much.
I love that line. Well,